Technology and change have always been forces acting upon rural Australia. Once, every town had a market where all manner of livestock was auctioned off. These days, sale yards have been pushed to the edge of town, and there's another emerging trend. Across Australia, local councils are moving away from building and running sale yards, with many of the nation's largest selling centres now privately owned and run. It's a fierce debate. What's better, public or private? Tim Lee reports.
It's market day at Mortlake in Western Victoria. Under the hammer, almost 1,000 head of prime quality cattle ready to go to the butchers. The bidding is fast and furious. The auctioneer barks out the bids amidst the cacophony of bellowing cattle, as auctioneers have done for centuries. But cattle yards like this are a new phenomenon, a departure from tradition. They're not built by a municipal council, nor owned or run by one.
Could you have afforded something this big and grand? No, definitely not. It's terrific that private investment look to invest here in Moy. Moy's open for business, and agriculture is our biggest industry here, so it's a great place to have these sale yards.
We think it's as good a set of sale yards as there is in Australia.
Businessman Brendan Abbey is spearheading a growing trend in the way livestock is sold in this country, building and operating yards funded by private investors rather than ratepayers.
In New South Wales, we've got Carcoar, we've got Yass, Wagga. You don't have a lot of little sale yards anymore. Victoria's the last Sebastian of it.
This complex, costing $15.5 million, has been very carefully designed for handling large volumes of stock with optimal efficiency and creature comfort for both cattle and humans.
The big thing here is the soft floor and the flow of stock and the use of horses. So we've eliminated people in with the cattle. We think it works very, very well. Horses don't spook cattle like humans. If humans are hunting them, they will get spooky. There is very much a safety issue with humans on foot. The horses, the cattle are relaxed with them, and I'd say they're at least 3 times quicker getting them from the pen to the scale house, from the scale house to the delivery mills. They're just very, very efficient.
Greater efficiency, better animal welfare standards, and occupational health and safety are all crucial considerations in today's livestock industry.
20 or 30 years ago, we didn't worry about getting into with cattle or with bullocks or anything like that, but it's a no-no now, and we've got electronic drafting here. You don't have to get in with the cattle. We had 3,500 cattle here in October. We drafted them all to weight and electronically through the draft, and it was a breeze. It's a modern facility, and it's so far in front now. We don't drive 40-year-old tractors or cars anymore. This is the way that the cattle industry and competition will go.
This impressive facility, modelled on the latest and best designs in sale yards around the globe, opened in January last year. But just days before the event, there was an extraordinary controversy. One of the company's directors, Rowan Arnold, a steel importer, was arrested at gunpoint in Serbia with 2 other men. It's alleged he used overseas business links to try to import more than 1.2 tonnes of cocaine, the second largest cocaine seizure in Australian history.
Serbian authorities say the arrests come after a 9-month investigation involving Australian Federal Police.
The drugs hidden inside prefabricated steel had an estimated street value of $500 million. If found guilty, Rowan Arnold faces a life sentence.
Knowing the guy's personality, knowing his work it's just unbelievable that he'd be involved in something like that.
Despite that setback, the opening of Mortlake was a big success. However, Brendan Abbey's company isn't alone in the yard building business. The other big player is Palisade Investment Partners, a specialist independent infrastructure management firm. It has already invested more than $100 million into 7 regional livestock exchanges along the eastern seaboard.
You're really designing for the next 50 years, as most of the old facilities are 50 years old. So you've really got to make sure you really hit all the key things around facility welfare, around safety, particularly is a big focus, but also around the services that both vendors and buyers will need in the future as well.
Palisade is looking to further expand, in time perhaps even doubling the number of yards it builds and runs. In doing so, it expects to outlay more than $150 million.
It's really a great initiative from Palisade, because what they've done is in taking that money and invest long-term in the region of Australia, and obviously throughout 3 different states at the moment. So it's been fantastic. It's invested a lot of money, but each one has a massive multiplier effect for the economies they invest in as well.
Traditionally, sale yards were in the centre of towns. Livestock were walked in, sold and slaughtered nearby. But urbanisation is continually pushing sale yards to the edge of town. And eventually, inevitably, urban growth catches up. When the Ballarat sale yards moved to this site in the early 1970s, these yards were state-of-the-art. At peak times, 50,000 animals a day were moved through here. But time had well and truly caught up with this facility.
118, 19, 119, way out. Yep.
The final sale here in October was awash with nostalgia.
121 the money.
Some stock agents were slightly apprehensive about the impending move to newer yards that are privately owned and operated.
Privatisation is coming more and more into the sale yards industry in Victoria, New South Wales and Queensland. So you're just seeing more and more councils relinquish their sale yards to privatisation.
These state-of-the-art yards are light years ahead of old traditional yards, and as you can see, they don't come cheaply, and that's a major sticking point for councils across Australia.
I honestly think that the councils are losing their appetite for risk, and they don't understand the sale yard system as much as what they used to in days gone past. The modern councils now don't like the outlay, don't like the capital expenditure.
That was the dilemma facing Ballarat. With about 1.2 million animals annually produced from this fertile farming region, Ballarat has long been Victoria's largest selling centre for sheep and lambs. But plans to move the sale yards well out of town sparked enormous community opposition. Many wanted it to remain under council control. In the end, Palisade won the contract. The new yards, named the Central Victorian Livestock Exchange, have cost $31 million. When the official ribbon was cut in November, it finally ended a decade-long controversy. The Ballarat Mayor says such a facility was simply too costly for council to build.
With 3% of taxes coming to local councils, we need to make some pretty smart and pretty tough decisions about how we'll be spending that money. It doesn't go very far. There's a lot that we're expected to do, and I think that it's better for us to focus on other things and let those that have the great skill and expertise in running sale yards actually do that. The private industry have embraced this, they've taken it on board, and we congratulate and encourage them.
Set on 45 hectares, with quick access to major road links, the Sunraysia and Western highways, it's predicted the new yards will inject $250 million annually into the local economy through livestock sales and flock business. The yards have been designed to meet future growth, able to easily handle up to 1.6 million sheep and 70,000 cattle, that annually will be drawn from a large regional radius. It's a massive upgrade on the old.
Well, there's a number of features of this yard really that make it state of the art. First and foremost, it's under roof, it's got soft flooring, it's got low bruise panelling all the way throughout the facility. Every aspect of the design is really about the animals and the animal welfare and how they're looked after. The soft floor has a big impact. The animals are relaxed, but they also present much better for the buyers as well.
It's going to cost the agent more to operate as a business there, definitely. It's going to cost the farmer more to sell their stock there. But hopefully through the efficiencies and the prices that we're appropriating, it'll be very, very good.
Any apprehension that farmers and stock agents had about the new yards quickly dissipated.
Well, Rome, very expensive, $31 million. Is it up to expectations?
Oh, it is really good. Like, we're extremely pleased with the way the cattle are flowed, the way the cattle look when they're penned, the way they've settled down, and they're calm, and they're like, we arrived here this morning, all the cattle were sitting down, they were laying down, they were absolutely, you know, they were in seventh heaven.
Content, relaxed cattle are more productive cattle. Further south at Mortlake, Brendan Abbey says his figures back that up.
The cattle being relaxed has a huge advantage. We've done weight gain or losses trials with these yards and the surrounding yards, and roughly they lose 3% less weight here overnight than they do standing on cement yards in the surrounding yards, and that's a fact. We've proven it up. Producers have done it. They've come to us and we've sent cattle here, we've sent cattle there. Our cattle are weighing 3 and 4% better on this soft floor.
Across Eastern Australia, private business is throwing down the gauntlet to council-run sale yards. Brendan Abbey and 4 others saw opportunity to design and build bigger, better regional sale yards.
I saw this opportunity back at Yass, where I'm from. Myself and another guy, Colin Medway, got the idea to try and regionalise the yards up there. There was the same setup up there, that there was 4 or 5 council-owned yards surrounding Yass that were all losing money, looked like shutting, had poor little markets with no competition. We built the yards at Yass, and it's proven to be a success. It's going well, and the numbers have brought competition in, and as we get more competition, we get more numbers, so it's just a win-win. And it's an identical situation here. We're surrounded by council-owned yards. Most of them are either losing money or very close to it.
Only an hour down the road on the Victorian coast, the Warrnambool sale yards were built in 1970. When the Mortlake yards opened last year, many thought these yards would lose a substantial portion of its business to the new complex. But that hasn't happened.
Certainly, Tim, it doesn't spell the end of council-run yards, and you've seen here today, I mean, how strong the council-run yards are supported.
And the council that owns and runs these yards, far from throwing in the towel, is fighting back. This year it will spend $500,000 erecting a roof over the holding yards.
We do have a bit of a problem with wet, because we're in a high rainfall area, so I think just for animal welfare and that, if we can have them under a roof when they're delivered, is a positive for us.
Manager Paul White says competition is healthy.
We spent a lot of money on our treatment plant. We probably took our position for granted, being the leading sale yard in the southwest of Victoria, but certainly it's made us lift our game. And yeah, we've made some changes, and probably changes for the better, and they're probably changes that the competition has sort of reflected that we do.
An economic study a few years ago estimated these sale yards generated $30 million annually to the local economy. Paul White says in the end, it makes little difference whether sale yards are privately owned or council owned. It's the stock agents who call the tune.
We don't own the business. We own the facility, we run the facility, the actual business is owned by the agents, and they're the ones that decide ultimately where the cattle go, whether it's to Warrnambool or any other centre, or whether they go direct. So We're relying on them. Our agents have been absolutely fantastic here with the opening of a new centre. They've supported us 100%.
The Western Victorian Livestock Exchange at Mortlake aims to get the lion's share of the region's cattle sales.
I did the cattle numbers in the area. There's 1.5 million cattle within 200 kilometres of here. It's the thickest population of cattle in Australia. And I thought it should work and will work. And we went ahead and built it.
These yards are built to handle 4,000 prime cattle and 5,000 store cattle. Stock agent Bruce Bell argues that the bigger regional selling centres like this mean keener competition from buyers and so better prices for producers.
You argue it's better for the sellers because there's collusion in the smaller yards. How's that work?
The buyers, there's some buyers that buy for 4 or 5 different companies, and if they buy for 4 or 5 different companies, that cuts the competition out. So that this is what we've got to also stop. If we get all our cattle in one area, each meat company will send a buyer and they will buy good cattle.
When you put cattle on a truck now, it's only another couple of dollars to get them to another 50 k's or 100 k's. The efficiencies outweigh all that sort of thing.
Here, each penny's weighed in less than half a minute, and the specifications instantly available for buyers and sellers. There are future plans to stage video-linked auctions here as well. At Miners Rest near Ballarat, stock agents and producers have also quickly embraced Palisade Investments' impressive new sale yard.
I don't think we could have got the funding through a council-owned yards to get anything like this. And this is the state-of-the-art set of yards that we needed in the area. And now we can see the producers are getting their cattle displayed at an optimum level.
We are a regional capital, and we really do pride ourselves in working with the regions to make sure that those that produce food and fibre for the rest of our country have great facilities and all of the appropriate infrastructure to do so.
For sale yards everywhere, ultimately it will be economics that determine which ones will win out.
Tim Lee with that report. And we cross now to the Bureau of Meteorology with the latest on the weather. Until next week, bye for now.